Hey there YouTube, it's Double D with Tournage du Bois, and we're going to walk through a project today. I had somebody approach me about making a bowl. They love to eat nuts, so they wanted a bowl where they could place their nuts and then have a place to discard the shells. So as I was looking, I found one that I really liked and they agreed to, that is basically a bowl within a bowl. So I'm going to try my hand at making one of those. We're going to be using some wood and some epoxy resin. So for this project, I'm going to be using Total Boat's thick set clear casting epoxy. It's a 3-to-1 ratio. So use 3 parts of this and 1 part of this. We're going to mix it all up together. Then I'm going to divide it into 2 sections. I'm going to do one color in titanium, which is what they asked for, and the other one I'm going to do in turquoise. So we're going to have a combined mix with the wood and the titanium and turquoise colored resin. Throw that in the pressure pot, let that sit at about 40 psi over the next day or so, and then I'll be able to take it out, take a look at it, and then we'll get the turning in the next day or two beyond. So for the project, I have my resin, I have my mixes, I have my mixing container that Total Boat always sends with their things, so they're amazing. If you want to use some resin to make things, I highly recommend Total Boat. They send mixing containers that have measurements on here, so it's easy to identify how much of what of each value you're putting in. They send mixing sticks, so they send a whole bunch of stuff together with their packaging, so you have everything you need to really get going. The only thing that's not included, of course, would be the coloring. So find a kind you use or that you like. I've been using these Middle Coast off Amazon just to get myself started. I've been pretty happy with them. As I run out of these, then I'm going to start looking at other brands just to try and see what I like best. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the project. So one of the first things that I did was I identified a piece of wood that we were going to use. I have a piece of locust that I found that I think is going to give us some good color to combo with the resin that we're going to use. Then what I did is I took some rice, I put it in the container that I'm going to use for casting it, and I'm using rice to fill in approximately where the resin will be. That way we can identify how much resin we're truly going to need for the project, so as we don't have to spend or use too much of the resin to make the project. So I've already got it in the bowl, so we can identify that. All I have to do is take the piece of wood out, which has, like I said, really good coloring. I look forward to working with that. And then all I have to do is pour the resin into the mixing container, and that'll give me an idea as to exactly how much of the resin we're going to end up needing. As you can see here, we're just over 16 ounces when I level it out, between 16 and 18. So I'm going to use that to gauge my 3 and 1 parts as we mix up the resin, so we use the right amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually estimate this at around 20 ounces just because of the math is a little bit easier. So 3 parts and 1 part. So out of 20 ounces, 3 parts, this will be 15 ounces of this mix, and then 5 ounces of this. So that will give us our 20 total ounces that we will then divide up. I'll leave part of it in this cup, and I'll mix one color in that, and then I'll put part of it in this cup and mix the other color. So I'm going to go right about 15 ounces, which could be pretty close to all the... Oh, I've even got a little bit left for one more small project that I can do. So that's good. So there's my 15 ounces. So we can see right there between the 14 and the 16. So now I'm going to pour this one until we get up to the 20 ounce line. Once we get to the 20 ounce line, then I'll be able to begin stirring. I always recommend doing this in a well ventilated area. The smell is not bad from this, but if you're a little more sensitive to smells, then it certainly can be. So when I first mix it, as you can see, it's a little bit cloudy, and we're just going to stir it for a while. We want to make sure we scrape the edges really well, the bottom, make sure we get it all mixed together really well. When it's ready to start working beyond this with the colors, then we'll see it in a much clearer fashion. So we'll catch back up when I'm done stirring. As you can see, it's starting to clear up really good. It's good. Double D here. We are back the next day with our bowl. It's come out. It's looking really good. We're going to start cutting down onto it. Today I'm going to be using my carbide cutters with the negative rake. So it's got a little bit of a bevel as a downward cut instead of a flat blade. So it will cut the resin a little bit better. It can be used for resin or wood. But we'll cut things just a little bit smoother, and we shouldn't have as many tool marks when we're all done with this. Then of course we'll be sanding it down completely and going from there. So I've got it mounted up on a faceplate on this side. The tailstock I brought up just for a little bit of extra support until I'm ready to cut beyond that. I'm going to be getting this into our basic bowl shape, and then I'll be cutting a mortise into the bottom, doing the finish work on the outside, so then we can get it flipped around and start carving out the inside. So we'll put our mask on and be ready to go. And we're back. I got some paper towels down to keep the water from getting on the lathe and rusting it out. Here's what the micro mesh does. So each pad is color coded and is going to have its own specific grit value. So we're going to start at approximately 1500 grit and work our way up to the 12,000 grit. That's going to really smooth it up, buff it really good. And like I said, we're going to wet sand this, so it's going to cut down on the dust, so I won't need to be wearing a mask right now. We'll catch back up here after a minute. We're going to cut a small bowl into here, and it'll be a little bit higher than the other bowl, and then we'll cut another groove around the outside. So, see how this turns out. Use some Axe polishing paste. This stuff is amazing when it comes to bringing out the color and just a good all-around polish. Really just want to work it in, and then we'll turn the lathe on and let it work its way in. And there we have it. Put your pistachios or whatever in here. When you shell them, you just toss the shells right around the edge. I'll be putting my logo right down here in a bit.